I'm Russ Dave, and you're listening to Ron Talks Tabletop Supershow Sunday. Ring the bell!
Hello and welcome back to Ron Talks Tabletop Podcast, Supershow Sunday. Podcast within a podcast that I talk about my favorite tabletop game, Supershow the Game. This is a show where I bring special guests on, talk to them, get to know them a little bit better, let the community know a little bit about them so that they can be enriched as I am. I got another special guest here, someone who's been around a long time. So please introduce yourself. Who are you?
Well, my name is John Polverino, but for those of you that don't me, I am your player of the era, the current LFF World Heavyweight Champion, the man that was dubbed by GM Clace himself. There is no longer debate, the greatest Super Show player of all time. Ron, thank you so much for having me, man. I've been looking forward to this forever. What's going on, dude?
I'm pretty excited to have this conversation. I know that you've been around a long time. I know that you're a fan of other games as well, and we're going to talk about that a little bit as we get going. Of course, we're going to talk about your accomplishments and the other things that you do in the Super Show community. But first off, I want to start with a tabletop gaming question, because this is a tabletop gaming podcast primarily. What is your gaming background outside of Super Show?
Well, I have been playing games, card games, really, since I was 10 years old. I went to my local store one day. I mean, I collected Pokemon when I was a little kid. I never actually played the game. But then I watched the show Yu-Gi-Oh! On TV, and then all of a sudden the card game came out in real life. And I'm like, oh, I want to play this game. And when I went to my local card shop, dabbled in cards, and I finally saw, like, I can actually play this game in person. So for a few years, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! I was pretty good, even though I was a young kid. I then moved out of Yu-Gi-Oh! I dabbled in Dragon Ball Z for a hot minute. It was okay. It was pretty fun. At that point, the game was a few sets in already, so it was really hard to kind of catch up. Still young, keep in mind, so it wasn't really worth it. And then after that, I found, like, my game of choice that was going to stick with me for a long time, WWE Raw Deal, the wrestling card game. I played that for a long, long time, for sure, all the way until the wheels fell off, so to speak, when the game inevitably, unfortunately, went out of business. Though they tried to continue the game through what they called the virtual era, where they made fantasy-based cards online to be played, and actually still competitively, including their quote-unquote World Championship at Gen Con. I played Raw Deal for a long, long time, for sure. During heyday Raw Deal, I'm not going to say I was young in the sense of like 10, 11, but about high school or so, still not allowed to travel too far from my parents. So unfortunately, I wasn't really allowed to go out to Gen Con myself during, like, when Raw Deal was huge. And when I say huge, I mean huge. The creator of the game, his name is Baron. He would award the winners of his qualifiers to not only pay their trip to Gen Con for the World Championship, but also get them tickets to WrestleMania, which was absolutely insane.
Wow.
Yeah. We actually, Ron, know someone who won a heyday qualifier back in Raw Deal. His name was Steve Resk, actually. Steve won, I believe it was called the Neutral Ground qualifier over here in New York. Ironically enough, faced his brother in the final. And back then, it was very entertaining. They used to transcribe the final in words. Like, this person played this person played that, and you can read how the match went. And Steve and his brother already predetermined beforehand that Steve was going to win. His brother, Rich, he liked the game, but he's like, my brother takes this way more seriously. So they very much had fun. If you read, it's to this day was the funniest transcription I've ever read, because they were doing illegal plays. People were laughing. I wish I could have saw it in person. My coming out of Raw Deal was during the virtual era. After, unfortunately, the owner of the game, Baron, had passed away, so printing of the game had halted. So Virtual came out, where they were making fan-based cards to be played. I jumped back in there. I stopped playing Raw Deal for like 2 or 3 years after the game stopped. And then when I found out that they were continuing it, and not only continuing it, still doing the once-a-year World Championship at Gen Con, I jumped right back into that. And I really flourished there. I was huge on Virtual. I was, at this point, finally an adult. I was able to travel around, and not only that, I actually won 2 Raw Deal World Championships in the virtual era at Gen Con. So I know we talk a lot of Super Show acknowledgments, but I'm actually on paper a 2-time Raw Deal World Champion. And from there is where Super Show came in and is now obviously been my heart and soul for 10 plus years at this point. We'll obviously get into the Super Show lore from the beginning.
Right.
But additionally to that, recently, over the last couple of years, I've also been dabbling in another trading card game, Disney Lorcana, based on obviously Disney. Very Magic light if you've ever played Magic. I never got into Magic, but it came out a couple of years ago, and I don't want to jump into a game that's already been out for a long time, so the fact that I was able to jump into a game right at its inception was intriguing to me. Actually a very fun game, definitely competitive, and the market itself is insane. But yeah, that's definitely a good second card game for me right now. But Super Show is definitely my heart and soul, and it has been for many, many years.
Right. I want to talk about Raw Deal for a little bit. Even though I never played the game, I'm just fascinated by good, solid wrestling card games and hearing about them. So who are some of your favorite decks to play?
So my favorite deck of all time to play was Eugene. I don't know if you remember the wrestler.
Yeah.
Probably a wrestler you wouldn't see on today's TV. But what was cool about him on TV was he used to copy his favorite wrestlers' moves. So it kind of went to the same thing in Raw Deal. Eugene was able to pack other wrestlers' moves, not just their finishers, but just moves in general. And it was able to make such a tremendously unique deck that was just so strong in different ways that it was just hands down one of my favorite decks to play for sure.
That sounds interesting. Really interesting. So I know that Lorcana is your second game. I play that like kitchen table, right? Because I just can't go whole hog into 2
Of course, yeah.
card games at the same time.
My wife says the same thing.
But that's something I enjoy. I knew you were in Lorcana because, like, you know how the Facebook algorithm is, right? Like, I actually saw a post from you where you like won an event or something like that. You actually shared a deck list.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I'll tell you this, if Lorcana didn't in some way, shape, or form pay for itself, whether it was like I pulled a very valuable card and was able to sell it, or I won an event and was able to sell the winnings from it, that I probably wouldn't be playing it. My wife probably wouldn't be letting me play it because when I came to her and said, hey, I'm going to start another hobby, she's like, how? With everything going on in life, obviously. So,
right. Understandable. I absolutely get that. So I know that you're a wrestling fan, John. Want to talk about that a little bit? Who do you like? What brands, whatever,
Oh boy, well, today's day, I think very much that is obvious. I love and respect and look up to the greatest wrestler in WWE history. That is your tribal chief, Roman Reigns. And there is no debate. I don't want to hear any sort of debate on the topic. But outside of Roman Reigns, who I will say is just above all, who else have I liked? A huge Brock Lesnar fan. When Brock Lesnar premiered way back in the day, I thought he was the coolest thing ever. I thought he was an absolute monster. And I really got hooked on Brock Lesnar because, I mean, even today's day, like if you go to a house show, house shows are cool, but nothing ever happens, right? Once in a blue moon, you might actually see like a legit storyline thing happen at a house show, but it's very rare. Way back in the day, I went to a house show when Brock Lesnar was in the World Heavyweight title scene, or at the time it was the undisputed title. Kurt Angle was the champion, and the house show advertised a WWE undisputed title match between Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, and The Undertaker. Somehow, at the house show, Brock Lesnar won the title. I'm assuming someone botched something, but he won the title. And I say they botched something because they took the title off him like immediately, like the next SmackDown taping, because they wanted Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle so badly, but they somehow screwed that up. So definitely a huge Brock Lesnar fan. Other ones, Randy Orton, tremendous. I very much always go for like the heel role. I know, I mean, shocker, right? But I'm very notorious when I go to shows and everyone's cheering for somebody, I'm the one booing. And when everyone boos for the bad guy, I'm the one, yeah, let's go. It's really funny, and a lot of people get a kick out of it. But definitely Roman Reigns is one huge gap. And then like Brock Lesnar was always my boy for sure.
Cool. So now we're going to get into it. This is a Super Show podcast, and you've been around since the beginning. Let's talk about how you first became exposed to Super Show. I know that has some kind of tie to Raw Deal or whatever, but yeah, just tell me about that.
And when you say I've been around since the beginning, that is not a joke. When I say the beginning, I'm talking I am in the hospital with Steve Resk after his first daughter was born. And me and Steve were in the hallway. And he's like, showing me this phone. He's like, I want to show you this game called Supershow that I'm working on. Like, that's how beginning we're talking. How did this all start? So it did very well revolve around Raw Deal at the beginning. So for those of you that don't know, Steve is actually 4 or 5 years older than me. So when Steve was doing his work in Heyday Raw Deal, he was like end high school, college, and I'm like middle school, like freshman high school type thing. Like, we never were friends. And like, obviously I knew who he was. I'm fairly sure he probably had no idea who I was back in Heyday Raw Deal. We never connected. It was never a thing. And then one day, I was traveling with an ex-girlfriend of mine and 2 friends up to New Jersey to see A Day to Remember concert at Asbury Park. We're in there, and I bump into a former friend that I knew from back at our local store, Comic Book Depot, that played Raw Deal. I'm like, oh, who? Like, that's so crazy seeing you here. He's like, yeah, come. A couple of other guys are there, including Steve Resk. And at that point, him and I talked. Obviously enjoyed the show, but talked the entire time. I'm fairly certain my ex-girlfriend probably was not happy about it, but we were talking, catching up, all this stuff. I explained to him how Raw Deal made a comeback in a sense with virtual. He was intrigued on it because obviously he loved Raw Deal too, and it died, unfortunately, when the game stopped being made. We set up a Raw Deal reunion tournament at our local store where a lot of old players came to play, Steve included. A lot of them just came like with old stuff. Steve was the only one that was actually like fully intrigued on the whole virtual idea. And it kind of just blossomed from there. Like, for starters, we knew that Gen Con was still hosting the World Championships. And unlike in the past when Raw Deal was a heyday, it was open to everyone because there was no qualifier to like win a spot to go into Worlds anymore. If you showed up to Gen Con, like, you could play. So Steve and I said, like, all right, we're going to give this a shot. And we were playtesting and all that. Spoiler alert and sidebarring, for those of you that don't know, I said how I won 2 virtual world championships. I actually beat Steve Resk in the finals of that first one, which was just it written itself because we play tested so hard for it. And if anyone has about 3 hours of free time, you can actually Google I believe it was the 2014 Raw Deal World Championship, YouTube I should say. Our finals is there live from Gen Con, and you can watch that. So we were obviously playtesting Raw Deal and all that, and then he shows me this game, Supershow, and I'm like, yeah, this is tremendous. And back then, it was like, obviously, WWE Prototype. For those of you that don't know, El couldn't tell by the body shape of the guy underneath the mask, but El Super Hombre was John Cena. Rising Sun was, at the point, Daniel Bryan, obviously Bryan Danielson, later in life, and a few other ones that some didn't make a light of day.
So I just learned a couple of months ago that Snake Pit was Randy Orton.
I mean, the original Snake Pit art is literally.
I know the pose. You're like, I know the pose.
You know, snake pipe, punt to the head. It was pretty cool, honestly. And I just remember playing. We'd taken old Raw Deal cards, putting them in sleeves backwards, and taking these printouts of prototype Super Show and playing on the kitchen table, where we had to play. We had to put down a bunch of dinner mats because the dice on the glass table was way too loud. And it really kind of just, you think about how the game started so small like that and made its way into what it was, is just insane, honestly.
Yeah. So obviously you knew Steve from Raw Deal, and you were there with him all the way from the beginning, him prototyping the game, playtesting the game, and then in 2014, it's released. What were the early days like?
So I don't know if you like, not just Steve. This game has a ton of Raw Deal players in it. For those of you that don't know, I grew up with GM Calais. I knew him in middle, like he is 2 years older than me, but I knew him from the local card store from middle school. He lived 3 houses away from me. So I've known him since that long. We're talking, at this point, it's close to 20 years, right? I've known Gropar, the great and powerful Chad Gropak, the same amount of time. Kid Thunder, Sal, I went to middle school with him. All of us were friends way back in the day, playing basketball at the schoolyard and then going to the comic book store to play Raw Deal on Sundays. So a lot of us, Loudmouth Leo Larynx, former Raw Deal player, local from me. And history has shown that this, if you, obviously Steve was such a fan of Raw Deal, like obviously aspects of that game came into Super Show. So history has shown that a former Raw Deal player has had success in this game. A good example of that would be Kirk Polka. I had no idea who Kirk was until Super Show, but he was a former Raw Deal player, and his accolades speak for themselves as well. You know?
Right. Yep. Cool. Once
Oh,
again,
I'm so sorry, Ron. You asked how the heyday was.
Yes. Yeah.
I kind of sidebarred that.
That's fine.
It was a really cool thing, man. So COVID was a blessing and a curse because ever since COVID, live, not just Super Show, I'm gonna go as far as saying gaming in general has never been the same. Like the numbers at Gen Con and Origins are not what they were prior to COVID. So before COVID hit, the heyday of Super Show was insane, dude. We're talking 100 plus people at events. Like, obviously, you see how loud Super Show is. Just imagine like double the amount of people. Like, I still remember the one year, I'm going to say it was probably 2015, the year that Pager Rager won the Super Show World Championship. Still one of the best moments in Super Show history. A woman winning at the time the Gen Con Championship. They went all out for Super Show. They had, I don't know the exact square measurements, but the space was huge. They put a giant El Super Hombre face in the middle of a ring right underneath everything. It was a spectacle. It really was. Unfortunately, when COVID hit, it kind of really died down for a long time. Obviously, you know that. But one thing that was different, what changed is before COVID, online Super Show was not a thing. You and I would not be sitting here doing what we're doing right now because the only thing that we might actually interact with each other was once a year at one of those conventions. I'm going to use a good example in the Cannoli, Anthony Perry. He's a face that I would only see once a year at Gen Con. I knew he was a blast. He was a great guy, but like it was never really a thing until COVID happened and we got online Super Show going. And I started the online league that really helped pioneer things. But then the Facebook group started going crazy. And now all of a sudden it's like you join a Zoom room with 30 people and you think you know these guys forever. But realistically, it was because of COVID. Other than that, we never would see each other. So you would think, what was heyday Super Show like? It was when you were able to have these like once in a blue weekends at these conventions or whatever. It was nothing beats it, man. And I said it, and obviously we could talk about it later, but like the latest Grand Gathering, the one that we just had, is the first weekend event in a long, long time where it just felt like real heyday Super Show. And we've had Grand Gatherings prior to that, and they've been fantastic. But like this one just had a different feeling to it, for sure. It gave back really good memories from what it used to be like.
That's great to hear because I don't have a context, right? So this is Super Show, and it has titles because it's a wrestling game. That's one of the. I don't know if that was kind of a thing in Raw Deal or not.
It was not, for sure. That's another reason why this game is so different than other games. Like it's literally a TV show, Ron. It's amazing. Like we have titles. You're a champion. You cut promos. You have rivalries, and you have booked matches that you don't see. Like, look, in retrospect to some of these other card games, we are a very small community. But holy cow, if we don't make up for that, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, I know. So, side note from here, I started a locals at a store here from a guy that was just very enthusiastic, just bought a bunch of Super Show product. There was no one there to start the locals. So I was like, you know what? Fine. I'm going to take the initiative and do this. He loves this game. You know, he sells Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, all that other stuff. He has a big weekly events at this space he rents out. You know, we're the smallest. We're not the smallest group, actually, but like we're one of the smallest groups, but we're his favorite group.
You'd be surprised how many times I hear that, dude. It's the same thing with my locals. Every Monday we have locals. We have maybe 10 to 14 people to play Supershow, right? And we're surrounded by 40 people playing One Piece. Or there's a Pokemon League going on with 30 people. There's 58 people in the building, and we're only 10 of them. But we're the loudest. We're having the most fun, and the owners of the store are literally like, I love you guys. You guys are such a blast. Like, please do this as much as you want.
Yeah. But back to title belts. When did that become a thing?
That's a great question, and it kind of intertwines with a question you're going to ask me later. I'll kind of just skip to it, where you're going to ask me, like, what is one of my fondest Super Show memories, right?
Yep.
I've had so many, obviously. It's a laundry list at this point of how many memories and accomplishments I've had. But if I had to peg one, it was my first Grand Gathering victory. Picture 102 players. This is at the time, the biggest tournament in the history of Super Show. Now, the following year was 106, and we've once had 110 at Grand Gathering, right? But at this point, it was the largest tournament ever. And you would consider me relatively unknown at this point. I was there the year prior. My deck won Deck of the Year, but I didn't win any big events or anything. So this was kind of like my breakout weekend. And I was slowly like showing people who I was. But there was a group during this time that was known as the Three Kings. They were the people that ran this town. Won not one, but two world titles prior. Like Pager Rager won the year prior, being the first female. And then King Pink won as well. On top of all that, King Cold won the Underworld tournament. Like, they were the top dog at this point, and they're still showing. And it got to the point where we were going to the finals where, yes, King Pink and Pager Rager have won in the past, but King Cold was arguably the best player in KSW. And it was me versus King Cold in the finals. And I'm talking, like, before we have all fancy things like entrances and all that, like, this is 50 people lined up to watch a match. They do the introductions. We walk through a crowd. It was tremendous. When the hand was raised at the end of that, it was just my most emotional point, because at this time, Super Show championships were not a thing. The winner of Gen Con was your world champion for an entire year. So I won this, and that was always my goal, was to be the world champion of this game. Now, that title, that quote-unquote title was short-lived, because the following summer, or I should say actually not summer, it was fall, but a couple months later, the Cruise of Jericho happened. Sami Callihan was named the first inaugural world champion in Super Show. Big controversy for me, because I felt I was the champion. Fast forward to December, PAX Unplugged. Winner of that faces Sami Callihan. That's when Shady Jeff was born. He won it with Aerial Lipstick and went on, and their history writes itself. But I was no longer considered the world champion because he was crowned the champion. But for a brief moment, winning Gen Con and being known as the Super Show world champion was my highlight, and still to this day, my best moment of my career, I would say. From there, we had the first World Heavyweight Champion crowned. And then we had the first Tag Team Champions crowned at the first ever Grand Gathering. Obviously, we've had Tag Team Super Show before, but we never had Tag Team Gold. And this was where I would say, if you ask the big guy what his fondest moment of Super Show was, it was him and the moneymaker, Stephen Hines, winning the inaugural Tag Team Championships at the very first Grand Gathering. Okay. I refereed that match. I have never seen so many emotions. These two grown men just crying in each other's arms. It was beautiful. And then from there, it kind of just went off like wildfire. We had the Underworld Trios Champion, which, by the way, I was the first ever Trios Champion. It was very funny how it played out, because the Grump, the GRUMP, won the first ever Trios tournament, but was only crowned the number one contender for the future inaugural champion. He won it at Origins. It was already advertised that the winner of Gen Con would be the Trios champion. So I went into Gen Con the following year, and I won the Trios tournament with SRG Universe, which at the time was just such a cheese deck, because there was nothing to stop Unstoppables. So I just played Director of Operations with Headband Drop. It was the most obnoxious thing ever. And I just autopiloted through the whole tournament. And then, so I was crowned the champion. I then faced Grump immediately. I wasn't even allowed to change the deck except for the title, which, by the way, I need Director of Operations in order for Top Rope Headband Chop to work.
Right.
So now no longer did that work. And at this point, it's something that I wish you could have experienced, Ron. But back then, like, there was so little trios and tornadoes that we were still allowed to mix and match competitors as long as they had the same 10 skill. So picture like a tornado, two agility 10s can match up to be a 20. It's how Brain Power was formed, because back then it was Witch's Apprentice and the Brain made such a great tornado tag that it actually was turned into a tornado tag. But the Grump came out with this crazy combination where it was like, I believe if I'm not mistaken, it was like Scott Prime, Various, and Man from IT. I don't remember the exact math on it, but picture 4 27s, a 15 that turns to a 27, and then the 18 that triggers Man from IT's gimmick. It was actually so obnoxious, and I don't know how I won, but I did. And I became the first ever trios champion. And then it's just really cool how like today's Super Show has so many championships, and not just like main stage LFF championships, like locals too, and regionals and all that. The tri-state, the Midwest Coast, the Deep South. Like a lot of that was brainstormed from the players, not even just the company. It's really cool how like everything all stems together.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more just about your personal accomplishments before we get into community involvement.
Hmm.
So what have you accomplished in this game? Let's talk specifics.
Oh my God. You just asked me my favorite question. All right. You got 3 hours. Let's do this. Alphabetical order. No, I'm just kidding. I am a 3-time Gen Con champion, back to back in a row. I mean, it'll be very hard to see anyone ever to do that. On top of that, I am now a 2-time Grand Battle winner, which has never been done. I am the only person to ever win all 3 major tournaments at Grand Gathering, the Cookies Fortune Grand Battle and the World Tournament. I am now currently, obviously, I am the World Heavyweight Champion, but prior to that, I am a 2-time World Champion, including the longest, most defending champion in history. In second place isn't even close, not even half, with 10 defense. 11 if you count having to beat Hold the Line Harry twice. And that's a funny story if we want to get into that later. I had to beat him twice, and he only had to win once, and I won back-to-back. But I'm the longest World Heavyweight Champion in history. I am also the longest Tornado Champion in history. Bob Dunn holds the crown for most Tornado, that is for sure, but I am still the longest Tornado Champion to ever be crowned. I am the first Trios Champion. I am former Underworld Champion. And, I mean, there is a debate on like what is actually considered the Grand Slam. Some may say that the Italian Bombata is the first Grand Slam champion. So just to make them happy, I'll say that. But I am the first person to ever hold all 5 major LFF titles, all the 5 big ones. I am a 3-time Faction Wars champion, 2 with Impact and 1 with Just Business. Oh boy. There's so many. Oh, I'm sorry. I currently hold the record for most CAC victories with 6. There was a tie. That tie got broken when I went to 5, and then I added 1 for good measure. Yeah, so 6-time CAC winner as well. I'm sure there's just a gajillion more things I can list, but those are pretty much my footnotes for sure. I think all of that is bow-tied and tied up in the first ever Player of the Era award, and I think that will never change. It's just a consistent history of just great performance and just what you do in the game, and being dubbed the first ever Player of the Era was a tremendous honor.
Congratulations. That's actually amazing. That's actually amazing. So Super Show has this random element with the dice and everything like that, but I do like that. That's one of the appeals for me. Like I feel like it's the great equalizer, but good players will show themselves to be good, over time, and so I mean you've earned all those accolades, man.
You're 100% correct. At the end of the day, what makes this game different from others is that small little white thing, or boulder dice, or whatever you want to call it these days. That is the great equalizer, like you said. And I like to quote that I have the book of P, where I have a whole bunch of my rules and lessons and all that. But in there, it explains that, like, at the end of the day, this is a dice game. I go into every match assuming that it's not even going to be 50-50. I'm always going to have margin for error and just assume that my opponent is going to have better dice rolling than me. So from there, how you build your deck, how you play your deck, and the decisions you make during that match is what can try to make that leverage go from them back to 50-50 to potentially more in your favor. And that's what a good player does in this game. Like, you see a lot of the same names a lot of the times in the headlines and have showing results and all that. You got to put the time and effort into it. You can't just put random cards in a 1 through 27 and assume that it's going to win a big tournament. It can. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, it's a dice game. You want to talk about my Gen Con victories? I lost one match, my second go around with Belinda, leading up to my second Gen Con victory. Do you know who that one match was against?
Who?
A 10-year-old boy. It happens. It happens, man. I won at that point a 110 person tournament the second year back to back, and my one loss was some kid playing a starter deck that literally went lead follow finish natty 10 on me. It can happen, dude. So you put in the work and you try to. You're not guaranteed to beat anybody. It's all about percentages, and you want to just do as much as you can to make that percentage back in your favor.
That's right. So I know that you're not just here in Super Show to play and win, play and win Super Show, but I know that you also give back to this community. So how are you involved in the Super Show community to get?
I mean, look, a lot of people like to say I got an ego, which I definitely have an ego. And I like to portray a bad guy. I like to reflect like Roman Reigns a little bit. But dude, I'm here for everybody, man. I don't think there's one person in this community that can say that if they approached me with deck advice, I didn't take the time to listen. You know what? That's actually a lie. There's a couple of people, I won't obviously say their names. I mean, this goes years and years into history. But if you come to me and you ask me, like, hey, can you build this deck for me? Or hey, ask me to do the work, I'm not going to do it. I want you to do the work, present me with the work, and we're going to talk about it, and into great detail. A great example of this is Mark Perry, the Salty Sailor Alien. That man I didn't know ever. He just heard of me and everything. He watched me from my first Gen Con win. And the following year, he came to me personally and he's like, hey, I want to get better at this game. Can you help me? And from there, I worked with him for a long time. And not only did he get better, but I actually gained a great lifelong friend for it as well. But I mean, people will say like, oh, I like to play a certain act, but I'm just a big teddy bear, and I'm hoping that's true. But I very much love helping people. Like I love coaching. Look, I can't say that I'm out here as generous as like a Bob Dunn or Ian Chambers, the Cheetah, when it comes to giving away competitors. That part I'll leave to them. I'm not out here gifting away $1,000 prizes like that. I don't have it like that, so to speak. But I try to make up for the fact in other ways, and I really do hope that people do see that, or even if this is a PSA, like, hey, dude, if you're nervous or trying to get better, and like, I'm not going to say like I can always sit there and type out essays and lessons like right on the whim, but I will help you if you want. Just come in and say hi and just say what you're working on, And I've spent many years doing that, and I've made a lot of friends in this game. I've watched a lot of people come and go, come back, go, come back, go, a ton. Like, the amount of people I've seen like give their grand entrance and exit is insane. And I do my best to get along with anyone. I try not to get on anyone's bad side or vice versa. And I really just hope that it does show that. And if not, maybe if you actually did think that I was this egotistical uh, Roman Reigns person. Hopefully, this interview can shed a different light on that topic.
Right, right. So, one of the things that you do for the community that I know in the community is that you're the general manager of the tri-state region, and I've explained how the region system work here on a previous podcast. But you're running the show for that part of the country and everything like that. And I've been a big fan of some of your decisions, like watching you make the tournament that you had Everett go through. And like the reasons, I can't pick out the details. I enjoyed your decision making process and who you chose in the tournament, and like your matchmaking.
You gotta just have fun with it, man.
Yeah.
You gotta have fun with it. This is a game, At the end of the day, people do take this very seriously. I'm a pioneer when it comes to like Super Show is serious type nonsense, but it's a game, man. You gotta have fun. And after all these years of playing this game, it's really all I can do at this point is just have fun. And I'm having an absolute blast being the Tri-State General Manager. I was given that position after I lost the title after an 18 win reign. And I'm doing fantastic. I love running the Tri-State. I love running the Olympics. The Olympics is another.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Like, go ahead.
I love it was a brainchild of mine that because I always loved Faction Wars. Obviously, I had my success in it, but you always saw the same two or three teams like on the top because the majority of the Faction Wars was a bunch of random people just banding together, slapping themselves on name. And I'm like, what if it was truly random? And the Olympics came to mind on like a draft with players, and we're now in season 3, and the first 2 seasons of the Olympics were, I'm going to say, a crazy success. People very much enjoyed it. Obviously, there are things to be tweaked and worked on, but realistically, it's been an absolute blast for sure.
I think with every new endeavor, there's always a learning process. You can always improve things. This is the 3rd year doing it, and I think this is the best format yet.
I agree because I'm trying to. I don't want people. I really hate the idea of the one and done thing, and I know it definitely discourages some people. Like, oh, that's it. Now I have to wait months and months, And there's no perfect process, right? We tried it. We tried a different format last year. It didn't really go off without a hitch. I mean, some people liked it, but some people were like, I'm still not playing towards something. So we're working on something this season with the pods, giving people more of an incentive to keep going. And to be honest, like there's even stuff to work on now. And I think come next season, I might even have a better grasp to really give people the incentive and their money's worth, so to speak.
Right. I certainly appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
We get to the end of this interview, and I just wanted to have a couple of more questions for you. So what is next for you?
About 5 minutes ago, because we've been talking for a minute, but maybe about an hour ago, the GM himself, GM Calais, announced on the Facebook page that so the ink is dry, so to speak, where Sunday, August 30th, a match 9 years in the making is about to take place, where I am going to defend my World Heavyweight title yet again against King Cold, the man that just won Gen Con. We were talking about Gen Con so much. This history, man, I said I beat King Cold in my first Gen Con victory. I played him again the next year. It was like, what are the odds that after 2 back-to-back 100-person plus people tournament, the same 2 people made the finals and ran it back. Fast forward 9 years later, King Cold, I'm going to say definitely not as active as he used to be. The whole KSW people definitely like just enjoying the vibes at this point. Goes into Gen Con, wins the tournament. And something that escaped him for so many years, won his opportunity to face me. I told Calais, I don't want to face anyone else right now. This match wrote itself. It needs to be what people want to see. Anyone else that has a shot needs to wait because this match needs to happen. And it did. And the Sunday, August 30th, live on SRG, we will have that match, and I will defend this title against one of my longtime rivals in King Colt.
As you said, the story writes itself. I'm looking forward to that matchup. So my final question is a question I ask all of my guests, and I provided you the questions beforehand, so you know it's coming. So John, what is something interesting about you that people may not know about?
Obviously, people know. I mean, they might not know, but I'm a mailman. I do have a persona in the game, the leader of the Postal Nation. People know about my family. I have both my kids and my wife in the game. But to answer your question, what is something that people don't actually know about me? And this kind of pulling back the curtain, so to speak. I actually have a photographic memory, selective, but I do. And it has helped tremendously in this game. People ask me, like, obviously how I remember things or XYZ, and it's just because it's just there. A big factor of that is competitors. Like, I mean, obviously it might not work, but you can name a competitor. I probably can list you their stat line from top to bottom, and it's just from glancing at them for a second, So I think that has definitely been a helpful factor throughout my life, for sure.
That's a useful skill to have in a card game, or any game, really.
Yes, that is very, very true.
Well, John, it's been great, and I want to, before we end this podcast, want to ask you, where can people find you?
I mean, I wish I can really plug things in, but I mean, I used to stream. I do have technically a Twitch channel, but I don't. It's been a long time since I've streamed anything on there. I used to stream like Fortnite, also like any sort of like online game. But I mean, realistically, it's you're right here, man. I'm on Facebook. I don't use an alias. It's John Polverino. Please message me anytime you want. For anything Supershow related or just life, doesn't matter. Just if you want to introduce yourself, I'm here, man. And that's it.
All right. Thank you for listening to the Ron Talks Tabletop Podcast, Supershow Sunday. And until next time, see you later.
Ron, before we go, one last thing. Okay.
What's that?
Acknowledge me.